Right, in this lesson we're going to be looking at Gunning for Funk from the new Trinity drum kit initial to grade 2 syllabus. This is a grade 1 piece. If we turn to page, what page is it? 15. If we turn to page 15, you can see the performance notes. So for Gunning for Funk, it says this piece is inspired by the Peter Gunn theme, composed by Henry Mancini for an American television series in the 1960s about a private eye. Okay, it gives you the chance to work on some 1960s stylized playing, including in bar 4 a simplified version of the Motown fill. In bar 8, a classic beat from that era, with its alternating double quavers between the bass drum and snare drum, as used in the Batman theme tune. I'm sure you will love Batman. And finally in bar 12, the iconic Flats in Dagenham fill. We all know where Dagenham is, it's in East London, and the Flats in Dagenham fill is this. We hear it all the time, okay? So we're going to have a look at the piece in this lesson. We're going to break it down and we're going to try and play the tricky bits and play section by section, line by line, to build you up into playing the whole piece, okay? So first line, after the counting, which is indicated on the top of page 19, we've got this groove. So we're going to say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? The bass is on the 1 and the 3. Listen. Okay? You might want to practice that bit, and then the next bar, bass and fizzy water coffee, or 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and. Watch that bit. Okay, so try and practice those bits on their own, repeating, say and play at the same time if it helps, okay? And then you can try and play that whole first line with me. 1, 2, 3. I forgot to mention, the first 2 bars, we've just got some crotchets on the hi-hat. Like that, okay? So here's the first line. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice the accents on this fill. Should be 1 on the mid tom, and then the coffee is accented as well. Okay, you might want to practice that on its own as well. Moving on to the A section, which is the second line, we've got a groove you should already know: bass and snare and bass snare and, with a crash on beat 1. Etc. Okay. Second bar, bass snare bass tut bass snare and. When I say tut, it's just a hi-hat on its own. So bass snare bass tut bass snare and. Try and say it with me. Bass snare bass tut bass snare and. Bass snare bass tut bass snare and. That's the second bar. The third bar you should be fine with. Bass and snare and bass snare and. And then the fourth bar of the second line, bass snare snare bass snare snare. Try and play that one with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so the whole of the second line, here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, have a practice of that, have a practice of all the elements, repeat them 4 to 8 times, no mistakes, and then go back and try and play that section with me. On to the next line, line 3 of Gunning for Funk. Okay, we've got the same 3 bars as on line 2. okay? But then we've got a fill at the end. So the first 3 bars of line 3 are the same as the first 3 lines of bar 2. The first 3 bars of line 3 are the same as the first 2... My days, hang on a minute. The first 3 bars of line 3 are the same as the first 3 bars of line 2, okay? So let's have a little look at the last bar of line 3, which goes like this. 1 and 2 and coffee lemonade. Does that make sense? So you might want to practice that bit 4 to 8 times as usual, okay? And then you can try playing it with me. Notice the crescendo, it's supposed to get louder because the next section is loud, it's forte. The B section is forte, okay? We're going to try and play line 3, the whole thing now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, on to the B section, which is the 4th line of Gunning for Funk. We're going to have a go at playing some slightly quick fills now. Okay, so they're semi-quaver fills. I like to say fizzy water for the semi-quavers, so we're going to say this. Bass, fizzy water, snare, bass. Bass, fizzy water, snare, bass. And on those basses we've got crashes as well. Watch. Notice I did that right, left. So it goes. Okay, so try saying it before you play it. Bass, fizzy water, snare, bass. Left hand on that crash at the end. Okay, bar 2. Bass, fizzy water, coffee. 1 on each drum. Or 1, 2 and a 3 and 4 and. And the toms should be accented because they've got this little arrow above them, which means they should be louder. Okay. The 3rd bar, bass, fizzy water, tom, bass. So it's the same sticking and rhythm as the 1st bar, just played on different drums. So it goes like this. 3, 4. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And then the last bar, really simple, we go crash, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so practice all those elements individually and then we can try and put the whole line together and you can play along with me. Here we go, the whole line, the B section of Gunning for Funk. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you might notice when I'm doing the crash, I'm doing left, right, because that's the way the bars end up stitched together. If you've got 2 crashes, you could do like that. Okay, you might have another crash there. Onto the C section, which is the last line of Going for Funk. It's the groove that we already know. It's this: bass and snare and bass, snare and bass, snare, bass, chuck, bass, snare and. Try playing that with me again. 3, 4. Okay, and then we've got a little bit of something different. Bass and snare and bass, snare and, but on the snare we're going to do a crash. So it's going to go like this. You might want to practice that a few times. Watch carefully. Bass. The ands are still on the hi-hat. So you go bass and snare and, yeah? And then you've got a fill at the end which goes coffee, 1 and 2 and that should be fortissimo. So you've got a crescendo leading to that bit. Here is the C section. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember to practice each line 4 to 8 times, no mistakes. And also, if you're struggling with a fill, repeat that fill over and over again, and then build into doing it line by line, and then you can try and put it together for a full run through. And you can try with the other video with playing along with me with the music. Okay, good luck.